Trumpism lost badly last night in California when Governor Gavin Newsom easily beat back a GOP-led recall effort. But Trumpism is still very much the core of the modern GOP, as evidenced by how many Republicans still refuse to accept the results of the 2020 election. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. If you weren't really following the California recall election because it was too dumb and confusing, you're not alone. In fact, there were 3 options on the ballot that said yes, no, and this is a bigger waste of time than driving to LAX. Seriously, why is getting into LAX such a nightmare? Most airports, you have to get there 2 hours before your flight, but at LAX, you have to get to the entrance of the airport 2 hours before you need to be inside the airport. You could drive to LAX, or you could just drive back to New York in the same amount of time. Once I was stuck in traffic waiting to get to departures, and I looked over at the driver next to me, and he was a skeleton. Of course, in LA, they don't call that a skeleton, they call that a weight loss goal. And even then, even the fact that he was a skeleton was less jarring to me than the car he was driving. Can we see the skeleton car one more time? That's a good. Go full frame. Let's look at it full frame one more time. Yeah. Speeding, going as fast as they can. We said to the graphics team, put a skeleton in a car. They go, we know just the car. You see, the key to bypassing all the traffic at LAX is to get dropped off at the arrivals and then just take the escalator upstairs to departures. An Uber driver once told me that before he asked me if I had any cocaine. In the immortal words of Randy Newman, I love LA. I love it. Anyway, the recall effort was defeated so easily and called so quickly that MSNBC correspondent Steve Kornacki didn't have much to get worked up over.
And there it is. You can see the news, Brian, with the check mark. NBC News is officially projecting that the recall attempt against Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, has failed. It's failing, as you can see by the results here, decisively at this point. We now have 60% of all the vote counted here in California. The recall right now is failing by a better than 2-to-1 margin. The difference there is 2.7 million votes. That's a 35-point margin. It's clear from what we have right now. It's clear to our decision desk. I think it's clear to everybody who's been watching along with me here that this number is going to come nowhere near 50%. This one is a landslide. The recall fails. Gavin Newsom is going to survive as California's governor.
It just must have been so frustrating for Kornacki. I mean, look at him. He might look like he's going to teach you fractions, but the man is an adrenaline junkie. The batches of votes from outlier counties, the taste of disposable Bic ink, the swishing of his khakis as he darts to his map wall. After an early election call like that last night, he probably had to stop off at the OTB on the way home for a fix. It is just a waste to see Kornacki's talent so underutilized on a blowout election. It's like watching a thoroughbred racehorse pull some tourists through Central Park. I won the Triple Crown, you know. They smoke through their mouths, horses. Now, in case you aren't aware, recalls in California are, to use a political insider term, super dumb. There are 2 questions on the ballot, one asking if you want to recall the governor, and another asking who should replace him if the recall succeeds, which means a sitting governor could get recalled if they get 49% of the vote and then get replaced by someone who got half that. It's insane. I mean, who came up with this system anyway? Like MC Escher? It's more complicated than following the latest developments in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We're at the point now where this is true. This building, 30 Rock, the one we're in right now, is featured in the new Hawkeye trailer, which means I'm technically canon in the MCU, which I assume also means I got blipped for 5 years in Infinity War, and oh, okay. So I guess that's what that was. It would also explain why back in 2018, Wally disintegrated in the middle of a show. I get it. You worked on that all day and you're like, we need a car! Of course, when that happened to Wally, we just assumed he was trying to hide from his bookie after he bet on the Yankees to win the World Series. Anyway, oh, they laugh when it's close to the bone, Wally. Anyway, so the recall system is nuts and it should be scrapped. As the California Secretary of State put it, this system is over 100 years old. We haven't revised it in 100 years. 100 years. If something isn't working, you don't give it 100 years. I did a standing monologue for about a year and never figured out where my hands go, and then Shoemaker said, you know where they go? On a desk. We shouldn't be running elections on a system that is older than the cyclone. The cyclone doesn't even have any loops or twists, just missing planks of wood. The thrill comes from seeing your life flash before your eyes before you get on. A priest administers last rites, but it's not a real priest. It's just like a high school sophomore on summer vacation. Although, I guess it makes sense. California's electoral system is as complicated as their highway system. One time, I was trying to get from Burbank to Santa Monica, and my GPS killed itself.
I can't do this anymore.
Why is every electoral system in this country so backwards and insane? Gerrymandering, the Electoral College, recalls. Why can't there just be a winner who gets the most votes and that's it? Why is it easier to vote in America's Got Talent than it is to vote in America? If Doritos chose their flavors this way, the top seller would be cilantro and cauliflower. This dumb waste of time recall has already cost $276 million and could end up costing more than $300 million, all because Newsom went to dinner during the lockdowns at a fancy restaurant called the French Laundry, which we can all agree was absolutely stupid on his part. It's like that restaurant was named specifically to piss people off. It's named after two things everybody hates. He might have gotten away with it if he'd gone to a place called American Puppies. I don't think he should have been recalled, but I do think they should have punished him by passing a law stating the only dinner he's allowed to have from now on is pizza from LA. Have you ever had pizza in LA? It's not even pizza. It's like an English muffin with ketchup on it. Oh, but good news, they deliver until about 7:30. And they put weird on it like seitan or avocado. To this day, I think California Pizza Kitchen was like springtime for Hitler and the producers. It was built to fail, and then against all odds, it was a hit. One time, I bought LA-style pizza for my crew, and they threatened to dump my body in the East River. Luckily, none of them could lift me because of their belly cramps. Barbecue sauce isn't supposed to go with peaches. Point is, it's really nice when California's in the news because we make a lot of New York-centric jokes here. California, stop wasting money on recalls and fix your pizza. But it's also not surprising that this was the way Republicans tried to stage a takeover of the most populous state in America, not through a normal election, but through a weird loophole where they would only need a small percentage of voters to win. This is the same party that's appointed a majority of the current Supreme Court justices, yet has only won the national popular vote once in the last 32 years. In 2012, they won control of the House through gerrymandering despite getting fewer total votes than Democrats. In the Senate, there's currently a 50-50 tie, despite the fact that Democrats represent 41 million more Americans. In fact, Senate Republicans haven't represented an actual majority of Americans since 1996. The GOP's entire political strategy is based on exploiting cheat codes rather than appealing to a majority of voters. Like when Mitch McConnell realized he could just manipulate the filibuster to stonewall everything Obama did and turn reconciliation, an arcane budgetary tactic, into the only vehicle for passing legislation. They're like those kids in middle school who would cheat during GoldenEye by turning themselves invincible. And you'd ask them how they did it, and they'd say, it's easy. You just do L plus down, R plus C right, R plus C up, L plus right, L plus C down, R plus C up, L plus right, R plus down, L plus left plus R plus C right. And then you spend the rest of the game trying to figure it out, and while you're not paying attention, they'd eat all the cauliflower Doritos. Anyway, Newsom defeated the recall easily. And yet, as he warned last night, the forces that led to this recall are not going away.
Just in the last, few days, and the former president put out saying this election was rigged. Democracy is not a football. You don't throw it around. It's more like a, antique vase. You can drop it and smash it in a million different pieces. And that's what we're capable of doing if we don't stand up to meet the moment and push back. I said this many, many times on the campaign trail. We may have defeated Trump, but Trumpism is not dead in this country.
It's true. Trump may be gone, but Trumpism is not dead. In fact, it is very much the core of the modern GOP. We can't just plug our ears and hope it'll go away like Larry David at New York Fashion Week. And, as a society, we should force Larry David to attend more events he doesn't want to go to for our amusement. It would be great to see him at Burning Man or Cirque du Soleil. Hey, it's bad. Yeah, it's a bad circus. I don't care for the sad clowns. I actually was the sad clown tonight, Larry. Okay. Can I ask you a question? Where you go to the clown college? Do they separate you into funny or sad, or do you choose it? Well, they suggest what clowning suits your strengths, yes. Because, it seems to me like a funny clown. A little bit harder than a sad clown. I don't think that's true at all, Larry. I think it'd be a little bit easier. One balloon painted on tier. Pretty sure I could do it. So, as the California recall, I don't know how that episode ends, but I think it's with Larry David going, Cyclone! So, as the California recall showed last night, Trumpism has real political costs for the GOP since it's massively unpopular. In this case, it was a disaster for the GOP, but that doesn't mean it's dead. It's still very much alive. It's the central animating force of Republican politics. In fact, the same insane conspiracy theories about non-existent fraud that Republicans circulated about the 2020 election have circulated again in California. GOP frontrunner Larry Elder's campaign pushed baseless fraud claims before the election even occurred. And on the eve of the recall, Elder tore a page out of Trump's handbook by refusing to say that he would accept the results.
Whether or not you win or lose, will you accept the results of the election tomorrow?
I think we all ought to be looking at election integrity, no matter whether you're a Democrat, an independent, or a Republican.
Is that a commitment to accept the results of the election tomorrow?
Let's all do that together. Let's all work together on both sides of the aisle to make sure that the election is a fair election.
Is that a commitment to accept the results of the election tomorrow?
Let's all work together to find out whether or not the election tomorrow is a fair election. Let's all work together to do that.
So that is not a commitment to accept the results of the election tomorrow?
Boy, Jacob, honestly, I answered your question. Let's all work together. We all should have a vested interest in making sure that the election is a fair one and is one that was conducted with integrity.
Why do you keep saying all of us? The rest of us already do believe elections are fair because they are. Republicans talk about non-existent voter fraud like the drunk guy at the Houlihan's who ate too many spicy wings. Damn it, guys, the spicy wings made us all our pants. We all need to go change our pants together. As it turns out, that strategy backfired big time on Republicans, and Elder ultimately conceded after the polls closed last night. Nonetheless, Elder had previously claimed there might be shenanigans in the election, and Republicans spent the campaign spreading the same old bad conspiracy theories about supposed voter fraud they've spread in other states across the country. For example, in Sacramento County, the registrar of voters was accused of having 2 employees of election equipment maker Dominion Voting Systems working for it. The man who made the claim toured her offices and made the allegation while speaking at a conference sponsored by My Pillow guy, Mike Lindell. Of course Lindell is somehow connected to this. The guy has inserted himself into every political story of the last 2 years. It's like if Forrest Gump had a louder, dumber brother. I heard they've been getting rid of ballots by going down to Santa Monica and dumping them off the piers. Nice when a new one turns up. Every time you think we're out. In fact, it's now become a baseline requirement for aspiring Republican politicians to insist that Trump actually won the 2020 election and that any election Republicans lose is illegitimate. According to a new poll released this week by CNN, most Republicans also consider support for Trump and his false claim to have won the 2020 election to be an important part of their own partisan identity alongside support for conservative principles. About 6 in 10 say that supporting Trump and that believing he won in 2020 are at least a somewhat important part of what being a Republican means to them. And democracy can't function that way. It depends on everyone accepting the results. The NFL would stink if the Jets declared themselves Super Bowl champions every year they went 2-14. Not to mention that if they did have the Lombardi Trophy, they would most certainly fumble it. See, fall comes and the Mets come out of our focus. The Jets come into our focus. Last night's landslide repudiation of Trumpism in the country's most populous state proved 2 things. Trumpism is deeply unpopular, but it also still drives the Republican Party. It's not going away. They can't win majorities of voters the normal way, so they use anti-democratic loopholes instead. We have to fix the system through major electoral reforms fast before Republicans can take advantage again. Otherwise, Republicans could do to democracy what they did to Mike Lindell's reputation and
Smashing a million different pieces.
This has been A Closer Look. God's Love We Deliver cooks and brings over 2 million meals a year to men, women, and children living with HIV, AIDS, cancer, and other serious illnesses. And they need your help now more than ever. If you're watching this online, you can hit the donate button. Stay safe. Get vaccinated. We love you.